And then for the last couple of weeks, Marino started doing the hand motions and dancing. A random Monday morning becomes so wonderful
Yeah.
because we're watching our boy learn and grow. Hello and welcome to a fun episode of The Family Business with the Alessis. It is Chris Alessi here, and I'm here with my wife, Richelle Alessi. And there's a very good chance that we are interrupted by our son, Marino, who was just making things very fun for us here in the podcast booth. Before we dive into our topic today, which is going to be quite fun, if you want to get text updates from our family, text family to 302-524-0800 just to stay in the loop. And we want to thank you for subscribing to this channel. We have over 5,500 YouTube subscribers, and that number's they continue to go up. So thank you for joining that. And hey, you know what? Give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to this podcast, because we've actually got about 140 right now on Apple. So we'd love to see that number go up as well, just so we know how our family can continue to bless your family. But today, that's actually kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about family. You want to say hi to everybody before we dive in?
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here again with you. We did an episode a couple weeks back, and we're back doing this together. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a member of the family business, but Richelle is a member of my morning devotional.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're in more podcasts than me. That's pretty cool.
That's wow. That's actually true.
Yeah, and you said the other day, I don't listen to any podcasts, so that's just interesting. But we're actually responding to something that we've been talking about a lot as of late. For whatever reason, it's just been kind of on our heart. And CBS News actually picked this kind of thing up, and something that we're just talking about as a family somehow is becoming kind of a national issue, and that is the birth rate.
Yeah.
People are having less and less kids. And so they've actually seen a trend over in Japan, just to give everybody kind of a breakdown. But in Japan, they've actually seen all of the businesses stop catering to families and start catering to single people, like karaoke for one, bars or drink nights for individuals. They've actually started to cater to individuals. And it's gotten so bad, because they're not even getting married, it's gotten so bad that the actual government has created its own dating app and is doing everything they can to get people together, because at some point, even our economics as a country is affected by the birth rate, by marriage rate. People somehow, in pursuit of money and a better career, are hurting their money and their career by not having kids.
How crazy is that?
So it's interesting. So we want to dive into this topic a little bit. It's been on our heart. But before we, I guess, go into some of the political aspects of it and all of that, what were you thinking when you watched the video of NBC News?
Well, it was interesting because for us, it's not a question to have kids. But I do remember a day where the idea of kids was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that does change your life. And as a single person, or even when you get married, because of the type of society that we live in, where it's very career focused, very it's about kind of you, like what are you making of yourself, how are you bettering yourself, what's for you. It's so focused on you that now the idea of having a child, it's like it shakes your world completely. And even though there's truth to that, we're not going to lie in saying that when Marino came into the world, everything was the same. Everything changed. Nothing was the same. But I don't think people talk enough about that change and how beautiful that change is.
Yeah.
And I think what we should do in this podcast, besides also talking about all the political opinions and even what we think, is just share a little bit of our experience of all the great things that do come with having children. And they're not talked about enough. And I think it's because if we talk about it enough, everybody's going to want a child, because children really do change your life, but for the better.
So hear me out on this, ready? Because I'm just processing this out, but I think it's true. I think this article proves God's existence.
Yeah.
I think this article directly proves God's existence. And I would say that because, man is pursuing success, pursuing a glowing career, pursuing money. That's very clear, pursuing a certain level of recognition and pride, wanting to be seen as somebody who can accomplish things. Some of the women who don't want to have kids, we were even reading some of the comments, and people are like, "Why do I need to be validated by kids?" Well, it seems like they're seeking validation outside of that. They want to
Mhm.
be seen as a career woman. There's nothing wrong with that, but it just proves that there's a desire to be successful,
Yeah.
right? And yet somehow the desire to be successful has made us as a people in America get to the place where the government's about to have to step in and say, in order to be successful, we need you guys to have families. That's crazy because it shows that God's way, kind of governance,
Yeah.
which is through the family, they'll be fruitful and multiply of it all, is not just for the betterment of the individual, but for the nation.
Yeah.
It's interesting that God's way is proven here, that when people pursue validation outside of God's way, which is people, there is no true success. And you would look at America and say, "Man, there's a lot of money here. There's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of that. This is a successful nation." But in reality, the government's like, "We need families," which is apparently one of the largest ways of indicating economic success. So they've actually found links between the amount of children you have and the increase of household income.
Wow.
So now the first person would look at that and say, okay, the more kids you have, that means you need two people at home. You need two people to work. But that logic doesn't make any sense. So to explain, they would say, oh, that statistic is only proven because the more kids you have, you need both the man and the woman to go work. So that's why the income would go up. It's actually no. The more family members born into a family, the less likely it is for a woman to have a full-time job, which means God apparently puts his hand on growing families and he helps take care of those needs. So all of it does come down to fear and ultimately just doing it God's way.
Yeah.
Um, and so we can get into that. But the part that we really have been talking about was kind of processing our life through a fear we had right before we started trying to have kids.
Hmm.
And it was the season of us being married, the season of just you and me, that time where it was just you, me in the house, that time where we could travel,
Yeah.
where things were cheap. I'm not going to say kids are cheap because they are not, but that's going to be over. Sorry for the yawn. And we were like so nervous that, oh my gosh, once we get pregnant, everything shifts. But now we sit here, we celebrate our son's second birthday pretty soon,
Yeah.
and we could not envision our life without a child right now.
Yeah.
So what were we saying in the car about that yesterday?
So we just were talking about how um I was processing because in my I like to plan things. And so when it's almost like you think you can plan a child into your life and then that you have a child and all of that's thrown away and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I really don't control anything." I really just have to really do it God's way. I have to, have accountability and just enjoy it. But my biggest thing that I would tell you all the time was, I'm just I'm afraid that once we have a baby, everything's gonna change. It's not just you and me anymore. And we had gotten married. We were together before having a baby, like a
Year
year
and
and
a
a
half.
half. And we had said at a year we'll talk about it. And then a year came, and I was like, I'm not ready. And then a year and a half came, and I love that you were like, it's not about being ready. It's just, is this what we want for our family? And the when we talked about it, I just now having Marino, to me, that's a silly thought now. It was just
Hmm.
like, what was I thinking? But I just didn't know it because I didn't have the experience. But I'm so glad that we said, no, we are going to have a family. We are going to multiply. And when Marino came into our lives, yeah, our life changed and we can do certain things we used to do. But I don't necessarily miss those things
Mm.
because I think we graduated past those things. And now it's time for us to focus in our family unit. And Marino's just made our life better. Everything's really more fun. Yes, things do change, but you adjust to your season. And the biggest thing for me, even yesterday, was because of social media and everything that we get to see, you have an unrealistic view of what would happen if you have kids or don't have kids. Because you see all these people traveling and going everywhere and having the dream trip.
All
and
because they don't have kids.
all because they don't have kids, so they can just get up and go to Italy and go to all these places and just do everything. And you think the moment I have a child, I'm not going to be able to have adventures anymore. I'm going to have to stay home, or I'm going to have to sacrifice my career. And I wanted to do something. But what I have found is that all those things that I wanted, if those are desires of your heart, in due time, God will bring those to pass. But not in sacrificing your family.
Mm.
And having those things are great, but you're going to be able to do all those things when your kids are older.
Yeah.
And even for us going on a trip now, maybe we can't go skiing because, Marino can't do that
I don't
yet.
even want to go skiing.
But can I tell you, we can still go do things as a family and have adventure as a family and do things for the first time with our family.
Well, that's a good point, because you made a statement about there are things we can't do. And the reality is even the semantics of that aren't true. With kids, we replace those things.
Yeah.
So, for instance, one of the things funny story we were talking about is that you were really wanting to go to Italy.
Yeah.
And so in that second year of marriage, because for our first year anniversary, we decided to go back to your homeland first.
Yeah.
Just to catch up with family. That was really cool. For our second, we were like, you know what? We'll go to Italy. And October was cheaper. So we're like, you know what? We'll
save,
go.
Yes.
We'll save and we'll go in October, but it'll be for our second anniversary.
Yeah.
I started to not like that idea. And it was really because of my understanding of traveling as a family.
Mm-hmm.
Because my family experience was, even with kids, my parents took us everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere they went, they brought us with us. They did not stop their schedule, traveling or not, because of kids. We did not have a bedtime. We were with our parents. We lived our life with our parents. That's how it went. So when we went to Europe, we went as a family.
Yeah.
So the idea of going to Europe, just you and me, I was like, I can't possibly provide the whole experience of Italy for you by myself.
Yeah.
We got to go with our family. And you were like, you don't want to travel alone with me?
I'm thinking, am I boring? Am I not enough? You don't think that you and I would just have fun? Like, we can't do something
And I'm like,
that?
no, listen, like the things that you do over there with family, it's even
Yes.
more fun. So finally, we end up kind of making the shift. But you had this dream trip
Yes.
to Italy.
Yeah.
We even saw like these pictures that these influencers post of these restaurants overlooking the water, and it's this romantic date. And it like, you look at that and say, with a kid, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And you're not wrong. But we ended up going to Italy last year.
Yeah.
Last year.
Last year.
And what was even better
Oh my God.
than anything we could have experienced going alone was this little picture that we'll put on the podcast. This little
Yes.
picture of Marino at a little crappy little pizza joint with a big old napkin stuffed in his shirt so he wouldn't get pizza all over the outfit we had just bought it. It was so much better than the picture of the romantic dates on the water.
Yes. Yes. And it was
I'm gonna find that picture.
the whole idea of, I say this till this day, God just knew, and I am so happy, but how this whole thing ended up happening is that we had planned that trip for October. You say no. So then I go to plan a different trip, and I was like happy about it, but not really, because that was not like what I really wanted, but we went with it. And then this whole trip is finding out, and 2 weeks before our trip, I find out that I'm pregnant with Marino. And I was so sick. The moment I found out I was pregnant, it was like nonstop nausea, like all the pregnancy symptoms. I got it all, and I had them for a long time. And 4 days before that trip, you say, hey, do you really want to go? And I'm like, Chris, no, I don't. Please, I'm so sorry. Cancel everything. I cannot imagine being on a plane or in an airport feeling this way. So thankfully, it was within the States. So we got our money back. Everything was fine. But then a year and a half later, we get to 2 years later, right? We get the opportunity to go, and we did it as a family. We went with your parents and Lauren had a super cool experience over there, and she shared it with us. But we were bringing Marino, and for me, our son, he loves to eat. If you know Marino, he's obsessed with food. He loves pasta and pizza and steak. So when we get to Italy, this boy enjoyed food so much.
Here's a picture of it.
Yeah, he just...
This is so much better. So much better. It was the best.
It was so much better. And he made the trip fun. Yes, I needed nap time. So 2 hours of the day, I either had to go back to the hotel or slow down.
And that's how I like to vacation anyways.
It's true. That is how you like to vacation. But the point was that we just needed to adjust to our season. And it was not a lesser one just because we have kids. Just adjust to your season. Put the right expectations to your season and then make the best of it. So we knew with him, we had to go to parks and seeing Marino in the streets of Florence chasing birds
Was
so fun.
best.
Marino eating ice cream 3 times a day. He was in such a good mood because we were happy and our happiness really, our joy like just exploded within our family. And even having that experience with your parents and having that experience with Lauren and the things that she did, that was such a memorable trip that if we talk about the trip, it almost doesn't feel real. But it was because at the right time, we didn't let a baby stop us. And he just
He actually made the trip better.
He made the trip better.
And the thing is, the mindset that says kids will get in the way of my life, of my career, that mindset is also living for paychecks, recognition, and vacations.
Yeah.
But in reality, the mundane of life has been so much more fun.
Yeah.
Because of our kid.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that he does while we're at home to make a random Tuesday night the most fun. Looking out right now of this screen and seeing Ashley, I do that all the time. We film audiobooks in here. We film podcasts. I see her all the time. To see Marino lounging up against her right now brings tears to my eyes. We're singing kids songs constantly.
Yes.
And over the last couple of weeks, Marino started doing the hand motions and dancing. A random Monday morning becomes so wonderful.
Yeah.
Because we're watching our boy learn and grow. There are so many times we're at home and we're like, all I want to do is watch TV. And he's running around and he's being loud and we're like, oh my God, all I want to do, can you sit for a second? But then he goes and he grabs a book and he runs over and he goes, Dada, Dada.
Yeah.
And you're like, what would my Monday night look like without that?
Yeah.
How much more Netflix could I really watch?
Yeah.
And it is crazy because every cliche about parenting is so true. The minute you and I finally get some alone time and we're going to dinner, it's 2 or 3 minutes before we think, you think he's doing okay?
I know.
I mean, it's absurd. And Alan, you'll like this one, and this is not to be mean to anybody without children. It really isn't. It's just a reality. I heard this quote the other day from Josh Peck, from Drake and Josh. Josh Peck said, God is gracious to not let non-parents know what they're missing out on. So when they look at their life and they don't have kids, they can't possibly understand how great it is, how fulfilling it is. And it's almost like the Lord allows that to happen because knowing just how wonderful it is to have children and the way that they make the everyday minute of life so fun and fulfilling. Yes, every once in a while, I've got to clean up the nastiest car seat. Yes, every once in a while, I don't think I own anything without bite marks in it. Like, yes, even the shirt you're wearing now has stains on it from 5 minutes before we walked in here that have nothing to do with you. Yes, that is all true. But there's a reason that when couples have been trying and haven't been successful, there's a reason it begins to hurt deeply. There's a reason we'll come together and pray for those couples and say, Lord, give them a baby. There's a reason those couples will turn to adoption and say, it's because children are God's way.
Yeah.
It's it's the most wonderful and beautiful thing. There's nothing when you read scripture that's anti-marriage, and there's nothing when you read scripture that's anti-family. And even the verses people might pull up, well, Paul said it's better to be single. Go understand context before you say Paul was anti-marriage. Because marriage and family is God's way. It's his way. And we're seeing it play out in economics. We're seeing it affect the economics of otherwise incredible countries. Do you know what I hear is one of the most amazing countries to go visit? Japan. I hear it's insane. It's amazing. And yet they're like, we won't be able to keep this going if people don't start getting married and have kids.
Wow.
And it makes sense on a legacy front. Because, you were talking about those people that just have a negative opinion of kids. What if their parents thought that way?
Yeah.
What if your parents were too afraid to have a kid? Or your parents thought, oh, shoot, if I have a kid, it's going to ruin my life. I can't be a career person if I have a kid. What? tell me what career legacy really gets passed down.
Mm.
It's funny. My dad talked about this in a podcast a while back. Shut me up at some point and say something. But like Kmart was too big to fail, and then it failed and it's gone.
Yep.
What like there will be a world without Amazon at some point. But our family's legacy continues through children.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's beautiful. And when you talk about legacy, because we're big about legacy, and I always heard it, and to someone, and I believed in it, right? And I still do. But when I had Marino, it changed me, because now it was like you live for yourself, and that's not wrong, because you have to. You're growing, you're bettering yourself. Where you're a teenager, a young adult, you are trying your best to be your best self for somebody else one day. But once you get the gift to having your husband and then having your kids, it's really not about you anymore. And that's okay. That's actually a great thing,
It's a
because that
wonderful
means
thing.
that now you get to work with your family and bettering your family. But it actually, what was for me was, now I needed to live more intentional. And now it was not just about everything being perfect, but how am I doing things for the betterment of my family and for the future? And it was like I had never thought of the future so much more, and how every little decision I made will affect my future for our future family. But it is a beautiful thing, because you do see God's provision, you see God's grace and his abundance in it all,
Yeah.
and his timing. And it was almost like, yes, you're always going to have a little bit of fear before you enter a season, because you've never been there before. You don't know what it feels like. It's an unknown. But don't let the fear and the unknown keep you from it, because God truly is going to meet you on the other side and have everything you need
Mm-hmm.
through people, through your family. He's going to speak to you. You're going to know. And let's be honest, there are hard moments with kids. We're only the parents of almost a 2-year-old, so we don't know what a 4, a 5, or a 6-year-old or a
Or having
teenager,
3 or 4 of them.
or what 3 or
Which we
4 of
will.
them will, feel like. But what I've learned in the short 2 years that we've had is that it's really, if you do it God's way, he's there. And he provides everything you need to help raise that child right.
Yeah.
And in return, you really live a full life. Like Marino's made our life full.
Yeah.
There's hard moments, and you just pivot and you change and you learn, but you don't live in the hardness of it.
He's made our marriage more loving.
Yes.
So the same way, whenever I perform a wedding, I talk about that ring being a reminder of the oath that they make, the vow that they make. Every time I see that son, I think of everything you had to fight through, both physically and emotionally, to bring that son to me. Everything that you have to do, because I could not take care of him alone. You are so much better prepared to take care of him. And I'm an involved dad. We've talked about it in past podcasts, but still, every time I see him, I go, my wife gave him to me. Of course, God gave, but you know what I mean? Like, it's made our marriage more loving. Our son is obsessed with getting Richelle and I to hug and kiss. He's obsessed with it. We'll be sitting on the couch watching a show, and there's like a foot in between us. And he'll come and he'll grab your neck, and he'll come over and he'll try to grab mine, and he'll be like, sit close.
Yes.
He's made our marriage more loving.
Yes.
And so even the idea of like, oh, we're going to fight all the time because the kid's always crying. Guys, kids can be figured out.
Yeah.
And if you come at it and think, why is the kid crying? Let's stop. It's actually opportunities for you to look at your spouse. You were saying the other day, Marino was throwing a fit. And so my dad voice came in and shut the whole thing down.
Yes.
And you're like, what would I do without that voice?
Yeah.
So that's a moment where even you, I'm just speaking for you and I'll speak to mine, but like you go, oh my gosh, thank God I have him.
Yeah.
And there are so many times where I cannot get Marino to chill. And then all of a sudden mom comes around and hugs him and he relaxes. And I go, what would I do without her? It's made our marriage even that more loving. So there are opportunities to actually see the value of our spouse.
Yeah.
Our son has given us opportunities to even value each other more.
And then there's such a special thing when you see your spouse and your kid.
Yeah.
When I see, it makes me like want to cry, because when I see certain aspects of Marino, and I say this, he's always been very similar to me, right? But when he is social, like let's say his 30% social self comes out, he's 100% you.
in that 30%.
100% you. He's talking and he doesn't stop. He loves people. I told you the other day, I went and dropped him off in the kids' ministry. He didn't even look back. He just went right in. He knew his friends, he knew his people, and he walks around our church building, closing doors. He knows this building like he just knows every corner, but it's when you see that and then you see the family legacy, it's different. And then when he certain faces he makes, and I just see you, Marino's hair, the back of his head and yours are the same. And it's so
almost
cute.
the same size too. He's got a melon.
He's a big boy. But seeing that, it's so beautiful to see each other in him.
And all of that would be robbed if we would have given into that fear.
In that fear.
And if you put all of that into one bucket, it so outweighs
Yes.
another year of just being married, the two of us.
Yeah.
It so outweighs another trip we could take. Because even the trips that we have taken, and we've taken him to Jackson Hole, we've taken him to Italy, we get to see him all bundled up for the cold weather.
And he loved it.
All of that. So here's what we know from this podcast. It's better for the individual to have kids.
Yeah.
Statistics show your household income goes up because your capacity grows.
Yeah.
Statistics show that there is a point at which it would benefit the economy to grow families, and it hurts the economy to not grow families. And the points that we've also made, though, is that the individual's life is actually more fulfilling.
Yes.
And every cliche is true, and it's a cliche for a reason. That every moment with our son, and we can't wait to give him a sibling now.
Yeah.
Like now, and I understand, by the way, why parents of only children or whatever parents, they speak of the firstborn differently. Like it makes total sense because they'll be like, we had to give him a sister. And it's like, well, wait a minute. It's not like she's a gift to him. It's another kid. It's an individual, like a full. But we do look at Marino and go, man, we got to get him a sibling.
He loves Matthew, his cousin. He's obsessed with him. They love each other so much. And so sometimes when they leave, I feel so sad because I'm like, he just loves being with them. But, you know, we also have to acknowledge one thing, and that is that everybody comes from a different background. My family background is very different than your family background. The reason why you could understand the let's way to do this as a family is because you understood the experience
of the family.
I didn't because my experience wasn't the same. So to say this, if you're listening and you have a background like Chris's or like mine or completely different, don't let that or use that as an excuse to keep you from experiencing really your full life.
Yeah.
Just get around good families. Get around if you're like, look, I was not modeled a happy family. My family was dysfunctional. I experienced so many things as a kid that I don't even know that I could do that. I don't think I would be able to be a parent. I never had a good parent. And so I can't provide that. Don't let that or your background or your history keep you from what God has laid out in scripture for you. Get around healthy families. Honestly, if you have to go and tell them, hey, look, this wasn't modeled in my home. I want to get around yours. Teach me. Because this is something that you can do with intentionality.
Yeah.
This is not something that just flows through and it's natural. This is something you choose to do. And so it's almost like get around healthy families. See how they do things. Go with them. Experience some of those things. And when you find the right person to marry and both of you decide to do things God's way, your backgrounds don't matter.
No.
From there on is your choices with God and getting around the right people, and you can have such a beautiful life that's like God-given.
Our child has forced us to make healthier decisions.
Yes.
We've become healthier versions of ourselves because we've stepped up into having a family. So if you're watching this, like Richelle said, we would just encourage you to have faith, trust God. Step into that season. God knows what you need, and his way is the family. That's why it's the family business. It's God's way. And so we love it. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of The Family Business. We hope you enjoyed this one. We hope you can send it to somebody that might need to hear it. We pray you've been blessed up to this point. Thanks for tuning in with The Family Business.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and click on the notifications bell so you can be notified for all of our future videos. And if you loved today's topic, we have plenty more. And you can click on this link right here to watch all of our videos so you can learn why family is everybody's business.